Good evening. Today is February 1st, and today is the time for our dark moon message. Um, well, my dark moon message. I'll own it. And today's message is about social media and how we handle that, and what are the different ways of handling that. And it's kind of a mixed bag. So I have a little piece that I've written, and then I'm just going to go ahead and speak from my heart. My heart. But what if today were the first day of your life? You know, what would capture your attention? Would it be the troops massing on Ukraine's border, or the current cold front blanketing the nation, or the waves of violence that is going on across the nation, or the threat to a woman's right to choose, or the current COVID variant that's flooding our medical system, or the rampant corruption in our political and government institutions, or what? What would capture your attention? Well, you're not sure? Well, how about given that that's your first day of life, it'd be far more likely your attention would be on the face floating in the center of your vision since you would be an infant. And what a relief that would be from all that serious stuff swirling all around us. But it's not that I'm saying that we should become more so childlike that we fail to register things like stop signs or that we shouldn't stick our fingers into wall sockets. But I'm just noting that sometimes when we need a break from all this mishigas, that it would be so much easier if we could just swim back to that barely conscious moment. It's like we're trying to quench our thirst, but we keep drinking from this water hose that's connected directly to Niagara Falls. It becomes all just too much more often than we admit. And yeah, I'm talking about social media. Some of us, like myself, have just turned our back on social media, but I'm not so sure that that is the best response. Like, I still have a presence in social media, but it exists outside of my participation. I couldn't handle the pull into adult scrolling every time I went on the post. I'd look up and hours had passed, and I had forgotten what it was I had planned to write. Now I do my writing offline and only rarely post, but it was costing me way too many spoons without any clear benefit to me or my starved followers, if they actually exist. So imagine my surprise when I discovered a wonderful way to continue to participate in the online world without contributing to what is now called or referred to as the digital streams. There are many alternatives, but the one that caught my attention was called a digital garden. And I'm going to drop a link in the comments to a wonderful post on a website, not on any of the bigwigs, by Maggie Appleton on the history of digital gardens, because it's really an important essay. And I think people will find that it's helpful um, when you can actually see what we're talking about. Um, apparently, I can't do that right now. So I'll drop it in for the host and let her put it in the comments. And the host, of course, is Angela Raincatcher. But what struck me was not just a novel way of participating online, but how close it was, but also how close it was to mimicking how we as humans operate cognitively. Because the idea of digital gardens started way back before the introduction of the internet. Hell, even computers back then were only big behemoths that took up floors of buildings. It was the idea of managing your own learning process, and it mostly originated with folks interested in cognitive psychology. And it was a simple idea that we learn by making connections with things we already know. Now, I'm oversimplifying this a great deal, but stick with me. It later became a something called hypertext, and it was socially, it was very closely associated with the concept of links. like we call web links or URLs today. And so a lot of this preceded what we know of as the internet and then the World Wide Web of Tim Berners-Lee. And so I think there's something there about going back to our roots, talking about that phrase up here above me, take root among the stars. But it's incredibly important for us to understand that there are other ways that we can participate in the social aspect of the online world. Social media as a genre has been taken over. It's been taken over by corporate interests, right? Well, now when people say social media, it's just a shorthand term for the likes of Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or uh, I can't even think of the name, Twitter. It's all these different brand names that we associate with the social media. And what's missing is an understanding that that's not the only way you can socialize or have social connections with people. It's not just in these walled off areas of the internet, that there are other ways. And going back to the history of it, it's a really good idea to learn um, what are those other ways. And the one I got turned on to was called digital gardening, digital gardens. Um, it came from the term originated with a person who was trying to get us to think about how gardens work. When you visit a garden, you don't have like a bunch, not, especially someone's private garden. They don't necessarily have arrows on the ground telling you how to walk through their garden. You sort of just walk in and you see things. Some things have just been planted. Some things are mature plants. There are many things in stages in between. You can go to what interests you and take a really good look. You can engage in conversation with the gardener. This is lovely. What is it called? And they could tell you its whole history. With most gardeners, they could say, "Oh, well, I got that from my grandmother's garden, and I brought, a little stub here, and I planted it, and it came up, and now it's this beautiful thing." And I give out, little clippings to anyone who asks. It's always a wonderful story, and it's such a wonderful atmosphere that you can in fact tell your story. So, oh, I have something just like this. And yes, it came from my grandmother's garden. And you can have a conversation. And that is a more social in the sense of we're not going to have to worry if our conversation slips off the end of the scroll by a certain time, because that conversation has value, it has history, it has meaning. And so, unlike a stream, right, where if you walk up to a stream, the water you're looking at is going to be further down. It's not going to stop for you can say that bit of water right there. I want us to have a conversation about. Okay, it's gone. Well, how about this bit of water? That's not how you handle a stream. A stream, you just sort of sit by and just let it flow. Every once in a while, you get to throw something in. Oh, here's my comment. Pop. And you don't get to control what comes down the stream. I mean, we used to be able to make, say, Facebook turn its algorithms off so we could just enjoy what it was that we wanted to see, which was our friends in order of when it was posted. But now, we have these incredible algorithms. You don't know what's going to come next on the stream. Well, I signed up to hear from my my children and my grandchildren, but everything coming down the pike down here seems to be from somebody else. Here's another liner coming through this little small stream. And you don't get to actually have a social interaction as much as you have a batting chance of catching it before it is down, cross, and poured out to the other end. And that's not really what most of us want. At least not for us, maybe some of us old timers who like to sit down and have a conversation. And so the other part of a garden is everything's not polished, right? It's not like a website where here's my very best. Bam. I've had it, copy edited, content edited. I have gone through and gotten all my citations. I have links to everybody and their mama. I have all this stuff. It's my very best. Here, bam. Now, try to try to dethrone me, kind of thing. That's not what you do in a garden. That might be what you do when you go to the garden show. But in the garden, right, you can have things that are not doing well, and you can have some things that haven't taken off quite yet. And you're still trying to figure out what is the combination? What do I need to put in the soil? What is needed here? Do you have any suggestions? Right. And that's the part of a garden that is really about learning. It's about showing your work. It's about not waiting till it's ready for the show, or we're waiting till it's perfectly edited and copy edited and content edited and polished and SEO optimized. It's showing how you learn to the people who come to visit you. Well, this is how I start off. This is where I start them off. And I try to figure out which ones need to be moved. Like this one has a really interesting shape, and I think I'm going to move it to this part, on this patch over here. Those are the kind of conversations that you have, and it's different, and you can show all the stages. Like come back next, month, and you'll see this is going to be even fuller and more beautiful because a garden, you expect everything to grow at its own level, at its own speed. And you expect to see things at various levels, unless you're going to like a formal garden by some, major institution or some hugely rich person who has no time, has all this time on their hands. It's not going to be sculpted, it's going to be interesting. And that's what a garden evokes. And that's what people are invoking with the digital gardens, that they will show their work. Here's where I just thought of this thing and I want to learn more about it. Anybody have any suggestions? And somebody can come in and says, have you thought of this link? Have you talked to so and so? Have you read this book? And then you come back and say, oh, I read that book. It was just what I needed. And then you fill in, here's some things I learned from that book. And here's the citation. So you can go look at that book yourself. And then other people saying, oh, I didn't know that book was on that topic. I'm going to try it too. And then they come in with suggestions. Here's something I thought was really, really telling. And I also found, information about that from, and they drop in some information. And in this part, you are collaboratively learning by linking things together. This goes with this. Oh, I didn't realize there was a linkage. It's even better if you're trying to come up with novel ideas. If they, like me, a writer, then these links start showing up in places and you start noticing things and you go, you know what? I didn't know there was a connection. Let me look into this connection and let me develop that. It's like a hybrid that you come up with some new ideas. It is such a rich metaphor for what many of us are craving in this, COVID world, the opportunity to collaborate, to show what we're doing, to show off our beginnings, to get an illicit input and helpful critique. The kind of stuff that is when you read it, you go, oh, that's just what I was missing. That's what I needed. Or helpful pointers. And a garden encourages that. And that's why I think it's so good because it mimics how we work, but it also mimics how we work together or how we can work together. And that's the part that I thought was really, really helpful. Because yeah, we may have to deal with the streams, but you know what is really good? Dealing with the gardens too. We don't have to shrink down to being, I don't listening, la 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 la. But we can go, I need to calibrate my time. I'm going to spend some really good time here in my garden and invite others to show me their gardens. And maybe we can help each other. And maybe I'm going to show it as I'm learning it. So maybe you'll learn too. And maybe whatever comes out of this, be it a blog post, an article in something like Medium, or an article in a scholarly journal, or a book, or a presentation, a workshop, an art exhibit, whatever comes out of it, right? That's down the line. That's to be seen. That is to be encouraged. But we're not, if you work in the realm of gardens, you don't expect everyone to post their finished things there. What you do instead is offer them your gift while they offer you their gift. And I think that is such a rich atmosphere. The collaboration, the interaction, the linking, and the public learning. That is so wonderful. And I think that that would have a big be a good way to get some rest for sticking a straw into Niagara Falls. That's a far better way for us to use our time um, to our best advantage. And for people like me who only have so many spoons, I'd rather spend them learning in conjunction with others who are interested in learning. And then I'll put some finished things or some little tiddlywinks over in the streams every once in a while to capture everyone's interest. But I think I like the idea of a digital garden. I like the idea of collaboration and cooperation. Yeah, I think that is a much better use of my time, my talent, and my energy. Let me see what the comments are. Yeah, I like that. Jim, inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. Gonna mulch it deep and low to make it fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, please bless these seeds we sow and bless them deep below till the rains come pouring down. I love that. Is that a those song lyrics? I would would think they either are or will be coming from you, Jim. And yeah, I see. Yes, they are excellent. And so, yeah, and thank you, Sheila, for being here. But the thing that's really interesting is learning the history and learning about that community. It's so uplifting. It is so incredibly uplifting. Now, there is a lot of science talk, I will tell you, in some portions of it, because they really get into that a lot at some edges, but you don't have to get into that. But you could learn a lot about what it is that feeds you, what serves you, and what is, in fact, um, generative for you. Because I think that we don't think we have a choice. And just like Maggie Appleton says in her thing, it's like way back in the beginning, everybody just had these handcrafted websites where people just went to your site and just said, "Hey, that's cool." And um, we instead now have, and the closest we got to the people ruling the social media was when everyone took their blog and pulled it all together and put it into those blog concentrators, which meant you could get a feed of other people's blogs, and that was wonderful. But now you, that kind of stuff, nobody, everybody's trying to get that optimization for search engines. And it's a little crazy out there. Like I was telling somebody the other day, when I go searching for information, I sometimes can't find what I'm looking for until I'm on like page 16 of Google results. And that's bad. But I can always find what I'm looking for if I start at a place like Wikipedia and just go to the bottom and search through the references that are listed there and think about what Wikipedia is, right? Wikipedia is not a garden, but it is collaborative writing. And it's just that produces a list of links to things that we might want to look at. We might want to get more depth from. Well, that's one of the things. If you start a wiki, but you allow things to grow organically, then you've created a digital garden. And so I think it's an incredible way of thinking. There is someone who added in a digital campfire, where a digital campfire is when a bunch of people come together and create some collaborative socializing in the realm of the online world. And I think that's pretty cool too. So figure out what metaphor you want: a digital stream, digital garden, or digital campfire, or what other one you want to bring from the real world into the online world. And I just wanted to share my current enthusiasm. So, oh, let's see. Oh, Jimmy says that some of us used to read the dictionary and encyclopedias. I was just telling somebody how when I mentioned Wikipedia, there was some young folks and they were like, Wikipedia. Oh, I said, what's the problem? They said, oh, it's bad. I said, no, it's not. It's a wonderful resource. And what it had happened was when they were in college, they were told that they shouldn't use Wikipedia. And I pointed out, I said, well, that's because when I was a child, we had this thing called encyclopedias. And when I was a child, I would pull from the encyclopedia, and turn to a page and would use that page to write up my homework for school. My parents bought those encyclopedias just for us for that purpose. That's what they were sold as. The problem with using Wikipedia as a college student is when you use it the same way I did when I was a child. If you just copy it down from Wikipedia. No, when you get to college level, you should be doing much better than I did as a child. Now, I granted, I may have been a very, a very uh, 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 ahead of her time kind of child, but still, you should not be treating Wikipedia or any encyclopedia as your sole source. But you could use the links below to find those primary and secondary sources that are more appropriate for you to cite in your um, papers and projects as a college student. Precocious. Thank you, Jim. So the idea that they were down on Wikipedia because the professors failed to explain to them why they shouldn't be writing directly what Wikipedia says. I was like, well, first off, plagiarism much, but secondly, um, there should be a better use of the resources. But when I mentioned that the reason why I was looking at Wikipedia was because I thought it was an excellent place to launch a garden, was that as a model, directly from my reading of Maggie Appleton's essay. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, Sheila, that artists standing strong together. That sounds like that's a pretty good digital campfire. That sounds really good. Congratulations. Ah, that sounds so good. Now, here's the thing. If your goal is to be seen by the general public, if your goal is to have search engine optimization, this may not be the place for you, digital gardening, because everything gets shown. But if you're willing to participate in the world in such a way as to bring more balance, bring more social cooperation and collaboration, then by all means, this is the kind of thing that I would strongly, strongly suggest. Yeah, Sheila. Tell them the artists standing strong together. They make an excellent digital campfire. Any other comments or questions before I go? I really love it. Yeah, I saw that. I saw, I think that was, yeah, it looks like it was Angela letting folks know that I love interaction. I do. Hmm. And there's always a slight delay. Okay. Oh, you're very welcome, Sheila. So glad to see you. So that's it for me tonight. I just want to say thank you to all, and I hope you had a great time. I know I did. And take care. Stay warm if you're in the middle of that cold blast. And join me online for some real social interaction. Thanks for your interaction tonight. Take care and good night.